Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with our weekly series of shirim on the Zohar HaKadosh, the Zohar on the Parsha, where we attempt to draw down the light of Moshe Rabbeinu, the light of Torah Shebechsav, the illuminated whole of Chachma, the clarity of transcendent wisdom, down into the territory of the Torah Shebal Peh, the Zohar HaKadosh of Rabbi Shimon, into the fire of Rabbi Shimon, into the Bina of Rabbi Shimon. To draw down the light of Moshe, Chachma, down into Bina, which is the light of Rabbi Shimon, is what brings us to a place of Keser. It's what brings us to a place of above and below at once, of Chachma and Bina at once. Chachma and Bina are always in stark opposition to one another, at least on the external nature of things. We know that internally speaking, there's always a perpetual unity between Chachma and Bina, between the part and the whole, referred to by the Zohar HaKadosh as Train Rein Dilemas Parsha the Alman, that the father and the mother, Chachma and Bina, the right side and the left side, are ultimately two parts of the very same whole. As we saw in the Ma'aseh Melechem Yesh Echad Shu Shtayim, there's a light of oneness that expresses itself by way of a split nature, which is Chachma and Bina. And on an external level, it appears that there's a machlokas between these two expressions, these two kavan, these two rays, these lines of expression, that Chachma comes from above to below, Bina ascends from below to above. Chachma represents calmness and unity, Bina represents intensity and effort. These binary oppositions that seem so starkly opposed to one another, they're in a perpetual state of machlokas. The entirety of creation is born out of the machlokas between these two elements, the right and the left, Chachma and Bina, Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. These two processes that appear so split are also representative of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is Chachma, and Rabbi Shimon, which is Bina. Now we know that on the second day of creation, it doesn't say Ki Tov. It doesn't say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked at reality and said it's good, because machlokas erupted on that day, and there was a splintering. But on the third day, when we are able to take the purpose of disintegration and separation into consideration, and when we look back upon the apparent machlokes, now from a perspective of the newly revealed unity, we have a better appreciation of what actually took place in the moments of disruption. In the moment of disruption itself, it's nearly impossible for an individual to understand the full context and to place the disruption, the machlokes, within a grander context of unity. A person might believe in unity, a person might have an ideal of unity, but it's very difficult to see it. It's only after the fact, when that third part comes along and reveals that there was really no machlokes, that we're able to look back on the moments of machlokes, of those yemois anisanu, those days of struggle, and we can understand how not only was there no machlokes, not only was there no disintegration, but the disintegration was there only to reveal a furthering and a deeper level of unity. Which is to say that on the second day of creation, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates the machlokas between Shemayim and Aretz, between Chachma and Bina, between Moshe Rabbeinu and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. So you can't say Tov. We can't say that it's good, because Tov represents unity. It represents the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey, which is the gematria of Tov, which represents the Roshei Tevos of Es HaShamayim ve'Es HaAretz, the heavens and the sky, Chachma and Bina unified. Tov, goodness, represents unity. So on a day of disunity, on a day of disintegration, on a splitting, on the emergence of machlokas, so the Torah can't say Ki Tov. But we also can't deny the fact that any apparent separation is only there to further the level of revelation afterwards. And so comes the third day where there's a kfila of Ki Tov, that the pasuk says Ki Tov twice, because it's the Ki Tov, it's the goodness of the third day of creation, but it's also the retroactive goodness that emerges from the apparent machlokes from the second day of creation. And not only that, but it's not just a simple return to goodness. It's a return to a goodness that would not have been possible without that moment of disintegration of machlokas. And so, yes, there's a machlokas that creates all binaries in existence, Chachma and Bina, Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef, Moshe and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But at the core of it, what we're leading up to is the Chasuv Hashlishi Sheachriya Beineim, that third verse that comes to settle between these two oppositional verses, that's going to reveal that the doubled nature of this apparent contradiction is in truth the only vessel strong enough to reveal the profound paradoxical light of Keser, the Aniva Ein Bevasachas, the place where Chachma and Bina, the right and the left, are unified. And so what we encounter with Korach and Parshas Korach is this very splitting? Is this very splitting between the right and the left, between the Kohanim and the Leviim, between Moshe and Korach? It's Palig Korach. Korach came along and he recreated Machlokas. He was Machalik himself from Moshe Rabbeinu. This distinction between Moshe and Korach is also the same as the distinction between Moshe and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai lahavdil. Moshe being Chachma and Korach representing Bina and all of that which seems to stand in stark opposition to the Chachma of Moshe Rabbeinu. But we know that the entire purpose of the Zohar HaKadosh is to reveal the light of Moshe within the light of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, to reveal the light of Moshe within the light of Korach, as we know from Chazal that the Yishmaelim were able to take us out to the desert to put our ears to the ground to hear Moshe emes v'sarasei emes coming out from the mouths of Bnei Korach. That all machlokas, even the machlokas of Korach, comes about to be megala one thing, tzaddik atamar yifrach, that the light of the tzaddik ascends specifically from the opposition towards the tzaddik themselves, as we know. That the ikr nakuda of the tzaddik is very often the machlokas against the tzaddik. This machlokas that is going to create the schoik, the tiskach liyom acharon, when we come to see that all apparent machlokas was ultimately just a dance that was revealing something that couldn't have been revealed without the dynamics of oppositional unity. And so even Moshe and Korach are going to be revealed to be a machlokas that is ultimately going to be megala, a unity. And we see this in Shammai and Hillel, we see this in Shemayim and Aretz. Emasai ka'asimar, the light of Mashiach Tzidkenu is the Sar Shalom. Sar Shalom, the master of peace, who draws down the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the name of peace, who draws down the capacity of Varech Asamo Yisrael Bashalom, which is Gematria Malbush, which is the highest level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's revelation, where chesed and din, opposites, black and white, darkness and illumination, us and them, Torah Shebechsav, Torah Shebal Peh, Torah, Tefillah, Emunah, Bitachon, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, 6 days of the week, and Shabbos and Yontif, Chachma and Bina, all of the oppositions, all of them, all of the binary oppositions, whose proliferation creates the very territory in which Chiddushei Torah can take shape. But it's specifically from the place of all of those pairings and all of those zugos and all of those separate couplings that we're going to come to find the deepest level of unity. And that's Emasai Ka'asimar. When is Mashiach Tzidkenu going to come in the unity between Moshe and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, of Chachma and Bina? Sar Shalom comes to reveal the light of Keser Elyon Olav Nikra, which contains within itself above and below at once. Ani v'ayin b'vasachas, the ideal and the real, the dream and waking reality, our ups and our downs, the katnus and the godless, all of us, all the parts of ourselves come together. And that's the yichud that comes about specifically by way of the machlokas. Shalom is Roshei Tevos, Shimon, Lamed Vav, and Moshe. Because the unity between Shimon and Moshe, which represent the edges of the word Shalom, is only going to be through the Lamed Vav Tzadikim Nistarim within each and every person. The heart of an individual which is directed and connecting itself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to reveal the Nukud of Tzadik between us. That's what we have to do. We have to unify Moshe and Rabbi Shimon. We have to unify Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. As the Bala Sulam says, this is the Iker Plugsa. This is the machlokas at the heart of reality. And specifically in Parshas Korach, specifically where the punishment of Korach is the opposite of Shalom. It's a disintegration. It's a splitting open of something. But when we gaze into the sugya of Korach, when we gaze into the sugya of difficulty, when we gaze into the sugya of the emergence of machlokas within a person's life, within a person's family, within a person's home, within a person's friend group, within a person's relationship to themselves, there's shalom between us and God, shalom between us and the world, shalom between us and our teachers, shalom between us and ourselves. And somebody who doesn't have shalom in these places is going to feel disintegration. And the job now is to draw down shalom. The avoid of the Talmidei Chachamim is that we're mar b'shalom b'olam. Tzadikim are mar b'shalom b'olam. Mar b'shalom means the deep awareness that all machlokas is ultimately there to reveal a greater unity. There's no way of drawing down peace prior to peace being available. Lo matzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu kli machzik bracha ela hashalom. Meaning it's a vessel that holds something. It's not the thing itself. So there has to be the light that has to be held, but the vessel that needs to be created through shalom is not the undoing of binary oppositions. It's not the undoing of disruptions or interruptions, but rather it's the deep awareness that within the interruption, within the disruption is the very light of shalom that's going to come from it. Shalom, shalom, l'rachuk l'karov. Shalom is not just something that's close by. Shalom is something that comes about specifically by way of the distancing, but specifically by way of the assumed distance and gap that existed is going to be the revelation, the radical revelation of the shalom that comes down be'ezras Hashem. So, Zok the Heilige Zohar HaKadosh. Tachazi, come and see. Kol man de ishtadil ba'iraisa achid be'ilana dechaya. Anybody who engages in the Torah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the point in which the unity of opposites is most apparent, because forget about the general and the particular and the klal and the prat that determine the laws of learning the Torah. The Torah itself is the biggest paradox to the degree that it is a revelation of that which cannot be revealed. It is the koyach hagvul. It is the potential of limitation that emerges from within the unlimited itself. The Torah HaKadosha is a split thing. It's completely open and completely closed at the same point. It's all expressed, but at the same point, it's all concealed. It's one singular name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we haven't yet been able to learn. So the Torah HaKadosha represents this place of the unity of opposites. And someone who's connected to the Torah is achid bi'ilana dechaya. In fact, they're connected to the ilana dechaya, the Eitz HaChaim. They're connected to the tree of life. The tree of life, again, chayim is the ability to unify opposites. Someone who lives with a sense of machlokas between themselves or between anything else in the world. It's liboy chaluk ala makom, that a person's heart is distancing themselves from that place and they're saying, I can't be here. Shalom, making peace with everything and finding the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that place, to answer with shalom and calmness and a sense of shlemus. So that's going to be the connectivity to the Eitz HaChaim. Kivan da achid bei bekula achid. Once a person is attaching themselves to the Eitz HaChaim, to this source of life that is kolel all machlokas, because we know, had we been patient enough to wait for Shabbos, then the Eitz Hadas would have been nichlal within the Eitz HaChaim, that even the apparent machlokas between the Eitz Hadas and the Eitz HaChaim would have been revealed to have only been a unity. As we know, that ultimately these two trees are really rooted in the singular place of B'toch Hagan. Tachazi. Person has to come and see that if you attach yourself to the Torah HaKadosha, you're attaching yourself to the entirety of the Eitz HaChaim. D'chsev Eitz Chaim hi l'machazikim bo. It's a tree of life for those who hold on strongly to it. It doesn't say hold on lightly. It doesn't say once you hold on, you're never going to want to let go again. It means one who sturdies their grip on the Torah at every moment, recommitting themselves to faith, returning to faith. There's the element of rapu yadayim in HaTorah, that they loosen their hands from the Torah, and there's the element of chizuk hayadayim b'Torah. Ripo yadayim b'Torah is falling back into the natural proclivity of denying meaningfulness and falling into the pits of despair that come with meaninglessness, which is a forgetting of the source of all meaning, which is the Torah. That's ripayon hayadayim in HaTorah, a loosening. But then there's also his chazkos hayadayim b'Torah, which is confirming and reconfirming that emuna kolzos. In the end of the day, all I have is emuna in you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's what the Torah is coming to teach us. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, Rabbi Yitzchak, the light of Gvura, the light of Tzimtzum, the light of Machlokas. He's the one who comes to explain why the Torah itself gives a person a source of life. Kol man diyishtadil ba'iraisa, anybody who spends time engaging and putting effort and toiling over the light of Torah and the light of meaning, chiru isle mekula. That person is experiencing a level of freedom from all things, because the mind is no longer encumbered by the terror of meaninglessness. It's attached to the light, the orta, the light of the Torah HaKadosha. It's freedom from death. It's freedom from the descent into the death-bringing pits of meaninglessness. The reason that a person is protected in this place, in the place of meaning, in the place of Torah, when one's mind is connecting itself to be mitchazek in the Torah, to find chiyas hamesim within the Torah, to see within the pratim, the light of the geula that is emerging, not by denying the pratim, but by digging down deeper into the pratim themselves. That's holding on to the Torah. And when a person holds on to the Torah, there's freedom. There's freedom that is unfolded upon that person. They're unified with that freedom. Ilu Yisrael mis'achin ba'iraisa yishtavu mekula. If only Klal Yisrael crown themselves with Torah. It doesn't mean Isaac in Torah. It means crowning ourselves with Torah, like we saw from the Ramchal yesterday, realizing that the thing that exceeds our grasp at every moment and that what we're perpetually yearning for is the light of the Torah, the light of Moshe Emes V'Sarasa Emes, the light of that unfolding unity. When we're mit'atrin ba'oraisa, when we crown ourselves with those crowns of the Torah, they're makifim, they're ideals. It doesn't mean that I grasp every nakud of the Torah. It doesn't mean that I learn all of the books on the shelves. It means that I know that I have the books on the shelves. I crown myself with the Torah. I hold on to those crowns that came down by Har Sinai, the itrin of Nasav and Ishma. We would be released from everything. Yishtachachu v'lo yishtachachu b'galusam. We would no longer find ourselves in galus. We no longer find ourselves in Gullus because we must emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, and none but ourselves can free our mind. That's the light of the Torah HaKadosh. V'dohu dichsiv, and this is what it says. Cherus al haluchos, Chorus al haluchos, and the letters were engraved upon the luchos. That negative space formed by a Kadosh Baruch Hu's engraving, so to speak. Al tikrei cherus, don't read chorus, don't read engraved, el cherus, but rather freedom, the engraving of oneself into the Torah, the becoming of the letters themselves, becoming the osios de chakika, seeing the body as the letters of the Torah itself. That is what brings a person to a level of cherus, freedom. Da b'oraisa ishtachich, oraisa ihi chilu diyamina. The light of the Torah is the light of freedom. Why? Because the light of the Torah is the strength of the right side, of Chachma. The Torah is Bereshis, it's Chachma, it's the light of unity. Keda amart miyamino eish das lamo. That is from his right hand that the fire of the das comes down. But the pasuk continues and it says, "V'smoila it kalil biyamina." But nevertheless, even though it's meyamino, even though the Torah comes from the right side and it comes from the lens of Moshe Rabbeinu and it comes from the lens of utter unity, which doesn't seem to tolerate bina, it seems to be in machlokas. Nevertheless, the smoila is kalil biyamina. But we have to re-include the left side within the right side. It's not enough to settle the score and say, no, I'm going to be on my side and this is going to be on that side. There needs to be a shalom that comes about specifically by the re-inclusion of that which is in stark opposition to the thing that we're including it within. To include the yamin and the small biyachad, which is Roshei Tevos Yam, or Roshei Tevos Mi. It's Roshei Tevos Yesh, rather. Yamin, the small. It's the Shai Oilamos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mashpia to each and every tzaddik. The Shai Oilamos, the Yesh Amiti, is the yichud of the Yamin and the small. And yichud, Yamin and small, is Roshei Tevos Ish. Ish Israeli. The Isha Israeli, the task of the Jew is to unify the Kav Yamin and the Kav small, the apparent machlokas. Man da ovid yamina smola, the smoila yamina, ha'ihu ki'ilu chariv alma. Now, don't make a mistake about it. The fact that we have to unify opposites in their paradoxical unity doesn't mean that one collapses into the other. To be koilel, the small within the yamin and the yamin within the small, to include the right within the left and the left within the right, is to ensure that each one of them maintain their own apparent self-identity in the yichud itself. Chachma and Bina both play fundamental roles. Chachma is menucha, Bina is yegia. Menucha without yegia is painful, yegia without menucha is painful. It's the unity of the yegia and the menucha, which is Roshei Tevos Yam and Mi. It's not about taking the small and saying it's the right, or taking the right and saying it's the small, or taking Bina and saying, no, it's really just Chachma, or taking Chachma and saying, no, it's really just Bina. That's shatness, that's kalayim. That's denying difference. That's creating a false sense of unity that denies and collapses all possibility of differentiation. The secret of shalom is the dynamic movement of the right and the left, which are unified together as one, which give birth to the dynamism and the unfolding perpetual expression of moreness that comes about from the split. We're not looking to collapse them into one another. We're looking to include them within one another. And so the Zohar says, once you're beginning to talk about the unity of the right and the left, of Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, of Anoichi v'lo yiyeh, so then we should never come to a place of shatness. We should never come to a place where we're mistaking the unities that we're making. Tachazi, Aharon Yamina, Levius Smoila. We see this binary opposition that's at the heart of the machlokas in this week's Parsha between Moshe and Korach, which is the same expression, the Havdil, between Moshe and Rabbi Shimon of Chachma and Bina. And so we see that this is the Pagisha, this is the machlokas between Aaron, who's on the right side, and Levi, which is on the left side. Chachma and Bina. Korach boy leme'eved chilufa diyamina l'smoila. Ubegin kach ish anish. Korach had the right idea about a future peace that would emerge and the coexistence and the mutual dependency of the right and the left, the Kohen and the Levi, which is Roshei Tevos Kol, which reveals everything. Kohanim and Leviim don't operate in separation. They operate in unison with different roles. The right and the left serve different roles. Chachma and Bina serve different roles. What Korach misunderstood was the importance of those difference of roles and seeing the unity that comes about by way of the distinction between the two of them. But rather, he took real machlokas and he said, I want what Moshe has. Why should Moshe have what he has? I want what Moshe has. And that's the opposite. That's taking the left and saying it should be transformed into the right, and taking the right and saying it should be transformed into the left, which is kilayim and shatness, and it's missing the point. That's not shalom. That's one-sided. Shalom comes about when each and every role understands its particular role in the grand unity of all things. And this is why Korach was too early. In truth, in the future, there's going to be a unity between the Kohanim and the Leviim. That's Rosh Tevos Kol Yisrael. But until then, we have to maintain the separation between the two of them. And Korach just wanted to collapse all difference. He didn't want to maintain the difference by way of peace. And this is why he was punished. And furthermore, the clarity of the fact that he came to separate rather than to create peace was that he used his speech in a bad way rather than to be marba shalom ba'olam. Rabbi Yehuda Amar. Rabbi Yehuda comes and says, Malchus comes and says, Smoila is kalil tadr b'yamina. Korach boi la'achafla tikune de la'ela v'tatu. Begin kach is achin me'ela v'tatu. Rabbi Yehuda comes along to clarify the statement of Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says Korach wanted to take the left and make it into the right, and that's the problem. But Rabbi Yehuda Malchus, who understands the fundamental unity between Chachma and Bina at every moment, because the Panemius of Chachma reveals itself in the Panemius of Malchus, and the Chitzonius of Bina reveals herself in the Chitzonius of Malchus. So Malchus always understands the unity between Chachma and Bina. The Rishner always understood the peace between Rabbi Nachman and the Shpeler Zayda, as we're going to speak about Bezras Hashem. Malchus is coming to say, Rabbi Yehuda is coming to say, no, don't think that when we warn that the left shouldn't be collapsed into the right, that we're implying that they're meant to maintain a difference or a distance from one another. They're obviously always unified. Chachma and Bina are always unified. They're perpetually revealing that which is not yet revealed. And prior to the revelation of that which is not yet revealed, it feels like a stronger stage of concealment. And therefore, it appears that they're actually separate. But Rabbi Yehuda comes along and he says, no, they're always unified. But the problem with what Korach wanted to do was that he wanted to switch the work that was being done above for the work that was being done below, and the work that was being done below for the work that was being done above. Rabbi Yehuda is coming to be mevarer the fact that there's no actual machlokas between Yamin and Smol. It just appears that way. Zok the Heilige Zohar Kadosh. V'yikach Korach. What did Korach do here? What got Korach stuck? My v'yikach. Nasiv itabisha legarme. Korach gave himself bad advice. Because anybody who chases after that which is not theirs is going to lose their space. And like we said, Korach wasn't coming to create a shalom that tolerated difference, but rather Korach was coming to demand equality in a way that doesn't give shape for difference. And so because he was chasing after that which was not his, so then he loses it. I'm sorry, not only does he not gain what he wants, but he also loses that which is his. Korach was chasing after that which was not his. And he lost, and he also didn't gain anything. Again, the delicate difference between making peace with paradoxical elements of a unity that is greater than a singular sameness, or trying to make something what it's not. Korach was trying to make something into something that it's not, and therefore it was coming to be machalik rather than to be miyached, when in truth the true shalom comes about by the tolerance of those opposites. Korach azil b'machlokas. Korach took the eitzah of machlokas, like we said. My machlokas plugsa. Machlokas is a peleg, it's creating a separation, it's creating a split. Plugsa de le'ela v'tata, separating a crease between above and below. Uman de bo'i la'aflaga tikunai de alma yis'avid mikula alman. And someone who comes to do something that stands in opposite to the unity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the unity between above and below, to revealing the unity of Chachma and Bina, to revealing the unity between Atzilas and Bri Yitzira and Asiya, to revealing the unity between Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. Anyone who comes to be itpaleg, anyone who comes to reveal disunity in the world is going to be removed from it. Machloikes plugsa de shalom. A machlokes is an argument on peace itself. Korach came to fight against peace. Korach came to fight against this possibility of the unity of opposites and the secret of a Mavariches Amo Yisrael Bashalom, the secret of the Gematria of Malbush, which is formed by way of Gevurus and Chasadim, Simsum and Giloy at the same time. Korach came and fought against the possibility of Shalom. He came to fight against the possibility that there can be two opposites at once. Uman de polig al shalom, polig al shama kadisha. And someone who comes to fight against peace is coming to fight against the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Begin the shama the kudshu, begin the shema kadisha shalom ekre. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name is shalom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is nimna hanimnos. He holds all opposites together as one. Nafshi chamda betzel yadacha, ladas kol ras seidecha. To be in the shade and to know everything at once. And so Korach, who came along and argued against the possibility of there being a coexistence of opposites in their paradoxical opposition to one another, and instead wanted to collapse his sense of self into somebody else's sense of self. So he was being machalik. Tachazi. Leis alma koyim ela al shalom. The entirety of existence only stands upon peace that is going to emerge from it, as we know from the Medrash, that Emes didn't want the world to be created because the world is a lie. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu took emes and threw it down, and he allowed the world to be created with malachim of shalom, that every ounce of distraction and disintegration and separation and contraction in this world is all there to reveal more and more shalom. Kach Baruch Hu alma, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, lo yochel et kaima, it had no sustenance, it couldn't sustain itself, ad da asa v'shara alei shalom, until Shabbos, shalom, the light of Mashiach came and rested upon it. Umayhu Shabbos. This peace is Shabbos. The unity of above and below, the unity of opposites, the unity of Chachma and Bina. Di'u Shalma Di'iloye v'tatoya. It's the wholeness of above and below, Kegavna, Dila'ela, and Dilatata, the secret of unity of opposites, unlike Korach, who denied that possibility. Ukadein et Kayim Alma. And at that point, the world and concealment has the ability to sustain itself, because there's a fundamental understanding of, okay, it's a paradox, but I understand that the paradox is sustained. But man de poligaleha yasavin me'alma. But somebody who comes and denies the capacity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to make room for both things, and sheish daiba elukusa l'chol bria v'bria, and someone who comes to deny the grand capacity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to shatter any of the laws of logic and to ensure the perpetual unity of Chachma and Bina, in spite of the fact that they appear to be in a perpetual state of machlokas, is taking themselves out of the world, because they're denying the fundamental light of shalom, the light of keser that goes from the very, very bottom all the way up to the tippy top and beyond. Slavchad, palig al Shabbos, dahavim mekoshesh eitzim. We see Slavchad argued on Shabbos. Slavchad had a machlokas against Shabbos. Slavchad is the tseil pachad. He lived in the shade of fear. He was operating in a place where he couldn't understand how Shabbos functioned in a world of fear and concern. And therefore he was mekoshesh eitzim. And man inun eitzin, but what were these trees? What were these suggestions that he was cutting down? Ilonin achrin. He was going towards other trees. He was going to other trees in the garden. And he argued on peace in the world. He argued on all of it. The Zohar Kadosh continues a few pages later with a deep form of shalom. The shalom between an Av and a Ben, the shalom between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Lazar Bray, like we spoke about, that Rabbi Shimon was Aya Lubar, Rabbi Shimon was always with the sun. He was above and below at once. He made shalom above and below. It was a shalom of Keser. It was a shalom of Chachma and Bina. It was a shalom that Korach had a smell of, but he didn't know how to articulate properly, and therefore, with his gaiva, he went in the opposite direction. But it's the shalom of Machlokes L'Shem Shamayim, which is Shalem, Roshei Tevos Shalem, Roshei Tevos Leshem, Roshei Tevos Mashal, which all point to the fact that the unity of paradox at its core. But in the future, this Giloi of the Machlokes, which is going to be Megala, a deeper level of unity, is going to come about through Shammai and Hillel. Shammai and Hillel. Machlokes Shammai and Hillel is Roshei Tevos Moshe. Naasa Adam, come let us make man. Zakta Hilig Megala Amukos Naasa Nun Ayin Shin Hey is Roshei Tevos Nimlach in Shammai Hillel. It's the Machlokes of Shammai and Hillel. This Machlokes L'Shem Shemayim that gives shape to existence, as Rabbi Nachman writes in Torah Samach Daled, that kol yomai is gadalti bein hachachamim v'lei matzati tova guf tova elashtika. But my whole life, I grew within the separation between the Chachamim, in the machlokas of the Chachamim. That's where the light comes through. That's where the world unfolds. And when there's unity coming from that place, that's going to be the unity of Sar Shalom, the light of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Rabbi Eliezer have kayim kaimed Rabbi Shimon Avua. Rabbi Eliezer came close to his father Rabbi Shimon, and this is the avodah of Eliyahu Navi at the end of history. Lahashiv leivavos al banim v'leiv banim al avoisam. So when the son comes to the father and the father comes to the son, that's a gilui of the shalom. Amar lei, Rabbi Eliezer says to him, Ksiv, rei chayim im isha asher ahavta kol yimei havlecha. Pasuk in Koheles says, and you should find life with the woman that you love for the entirety of your days. Ahavta, Aleph Hey Beis Taf, is at hav. That the Gemara tells us that anytime there's a machlokas l'shem shemayim, you can even have a father and a son who love each other, but they're going to go at each other like at v'hav. These two mitzarim who followed Klal Yisrael in the back, and ultimately that at and hav, that machlokas gives birth to the ahafta. The ahafta, at v'hav with a vav, hachibor becomes the word v'ahafta to show that the separation becomes a point of unity. And as the Ramchal says, this is mevatel klipas Edom and Yishmael, at and hav. This machlokas l'shem shemayim, the limud gemara, liba de hilchasa, and the birur halacha, and the libun halacha, and the yegias ha-machshava and ha-seichel in Torah HaKadosh and Emunah. Amar lei, let's understand this pasuk. Come and draw life down to the woman that you love. Life is the right side. Isha is the left side. Zer Anpin and Malchus. They are in stark opposition to one another. Life is the effulgence of above, and Malchus is that which is concealed below. But the secret of love that Rabbi Shimon is teaching Rabbi Elazar is the secret of spend your life with the woman that you love, draw life down to the realm of the feminine, draw life down from Zer Anpin into Malchus and unify them together. Unify the Yamin and the Small, Chachma and Bina. Da beloy da loy azla. One without the other doesn't go. This is the secret of shalom. One side of the paradox without the other doesn't give shape to anything. Uboy barnash le'aklala midas yoim belayla umidas layla b'yom. A person has to, in their lives, unify opposites and allow for the upholding of that unified oppositional paradox that gives birth to new and new revelations each and every second. And the secret of tainu katamidi, of Tnuas HaEschadshus B'toich Tainu Katmidi, the perpetual movement of change within the perpetuality of pleasure, drawing Chaim, which is the perpetuality of pleasure, into the territory of the feminine, which is the place of concealment. A person has to remember in the daytime, the nighttime, and in the nighttime, the daytime. A person has to reveal the Bina within Chachma and the Chacham within Bina. Havein b'chacham v'chacham b'bina, the unity of opposites that reveals the light of Keser Elyon Olav Nikra, which is the secret of the Yichud Shnei HaHafachim. V'dohu re'ei chayim, and this unity that is incumbent upon us is what the pasuk means. Re'ei chayim, come and draw life down. Life, which is the side of the yamin, im isha shahavta, which is the side of the small, and unify the right and the left, chochma and bina. Why? My time begin kihu chalkecha b'chayim, because in truth, the left side and the concealment is the main place in which the light of the right side has to be revealed. That bina forces chochma to reveal itself with even more ferocity, and that's the ki tov that comes about after the machlokas. The chayim lo sharian ela al da, uba amalecha asher ata omel tachas hashemesh. Because the only place that true life is going to be revealed is in the work that you do down here in the feminine territory of concealment, and in the effort that's done in the concealment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light, underneath the sun. A person has to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu in everything that they do, above and below at once. V'hu yashar or chosecha. And he's going to be the one that straightens our path. This is the avodah of Parshas Korach, the avodah of our generation, the avodah of right now, is to draw shalom into each and every moment. As Rabbeinu says, to bring shalom between ourselves and ourselves, to forgive ourselves, to work through the stuff that needs to be worked through, to forgive others, to forgive all of the places of concealment that we feel stuck in, to welcome Eliyahu Navi back into that place, lahashiv lev avos al banim v'lev banim al avoisam, to bring down that shalom, which is why we're so expecting that shalom to come, which is why we can't sleep well on Motzei Shabbos, because we're anticipating this shalom. We're anticipating Eliyahu Navi come to be merachik the sheker, as Rabbeinu says. And in that place of drawing down shalom, we can draw down the light of wholeness, a wholeness that tolerates the unity between the whole and the part, between perfect and imperfect, between the light of David HaMelech and Moshe Rabbeinu, David HaMelech and Yosef HaTzadik, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, to the level of Mibein Shnei Akruvim, which is Rosh Tevas Moshe, which comes to reveal the new Torah of Atikas Tima'a, which is the Mashahaya Hushihiya, the unity between Moshe and Mashiach Tzidkenu, which is the secret of Shar Shalom, Be'ezras Hashem.